If you're worried that you'll ruin your day by getting sick after riding Guardians of the Galaxy, stick around and I'll give you the breakdown of just how sick you might get. Let's dive in. Hey, howdy, hey, it's Molly, the Disney Picky Eater, and we are getting into part 2 of rating every ride in Disney World based on motion sickness. If you missed part 1, head over to the page and see all you missed. On a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being that you're totally fine and you won't feel a thing, and 10 being you might actually puke or feel like you're going to puke for the rest of the day, that's what we'll be rating. Along the way, I'll give you a few tips to help with that nauseous feeling, since I tend to lean towards feeling like I might puke when it comes to certain rides. Let's start in Epcot over in the World Nature section of the park. To the Seas Pavilion with the Seas with Nemo and Friends. A dark ride that is continuously moving. You sit in a shell and you move through the scenes from the Finding Nemo movie. It's super cute. It's great for kids. I actually enjoy this ride myself quite a bit. It's fun and relaxing, and when you exit the ride in the Seas Pavilion, you're also in a small aquarium, which is fantastic. There are dolphins and manatees and all sorts of other sea life. Anyway, the ride is slow, it's relaxing, so because of all of that, this ride gets a 1 out of 10. Heading over to the Land Pavilion, we are going to hop on Soarin' Around the World. This ride has you sit down and buckle up to take flight around the world. You are lifted off the ground with a large screen projecting different scenes from around the world in front of you. While you tilt some, you don't actually move as much as you think you do. Smells are pumped through the ride scene by scene to give you a more immersive experience that really is one of the best parts of the ride. Now, here's where you could feel a little ill. There are 3 sections and 3 rows on this ride. A section A, a section B, and a section C, and then 3 rows in each of those. You can be seated off to the side, which can give the screen a slight warped look, and because of the way that you're soaring, it can give you a little bit of a sick feeling. You can always request sitting in section B, which is the center. It has the least warped look, but remember, cast members might not be able to accommodate you, so be kind. If you were sitting in section B, I'd give this ride a 3 out of 10. Sections A and C, I'll give it a 5.5 out of 10. Staying in the Land Pavilion, we are going to head over to Living with the Land. This 15-minute boat ride brings you through an explanation of how different ecosystems work, along with ways cultures from around the world are working to make farming more sustainable. After that, you are taken through Disney's greenhouse, filled with plants, spices, fruits, veggies, and even fish. It's fantastic. They explain how Disney is working with different growing techniques, and most of what you are seeing is actually being used in those restaurants that you eat at around Disney property. The ride is insightful, it's calming, it's entertaining. I'm obsessed with it. I ride it every single time. Try it during the day and night. It's a little bit of a different experience. Due to its slow nature, though, I will give this a 1 out of 10. Leaving the Land Pavilion and walking into the World Celebration section of Epcot, we will head over to Journey into Imagination with Figment. Another dark ride. This one takes you literally on a journey into imagination with Figment, a small purple dragon who takes over the ride from Dr. Nigel Channing, who is trying to bring us on a tour of the labs at the Institute that includes things like sound, illusion, color, and smell. Honestly, I find Figment incredibly annoying. Please don't burn me at the stake. I usually skip this one. It seems to be a fan favorite since it's been around for so long. I think it's more of a nostalgic thing. Maybe people genuinely love it. I know I'm in the minority. But since this ride doesn't do anything crazy, I'm going to give it a 1 out of 10. Spaceship Earth, or what a lot of people refer to as the Epcot Ball, is another dark ride that takes us through the history of life from start until what used to actually be now, which is really the mid-90s at this point. It was supposed to be updated, but unfortunately it got put on hold because of the pandemic. We learned how humans learned to communicate with each other, who invented the alphabet. You can thank the Venetians for that. How we started documenting important history, when the printing press was invented, and so on until we get to computers. After all that learning, you get to choose what kind of life you are looking to live in the future by answering a few questions on your ride vehicle. It's a slow ride, another fan favorite simply because of the nostalgia. And because of this, I'm going to give this one a 1 out of 10. We are now making our way to the World Discovery section of Epcot, which is known for having all the thrill rides. Let's get started at the brand new Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind roller coaster. A mouthful. This is the newest addition to the Disney World rides. In this ride, we are trying to help the Guardians stop the destruction of Earth by going back in time, hence Cosmic Rewind, and we are taking into space with classic rock songs blasting all around us, really giving us the Guardians vibe. Now, this ride is so fun. I laughed, I screamed, I smiled the entire time. It did not feel sick while I was on the ride. I think the combo of the ride vehicle spinning while turning helped cut down on the feeling while riding. Now I'm saying that in all capitals, while riding. When I got off the ride and made it outside, I found myself suddenly feeling like I was spinning. Like if you've ever gone on a cruise and it's a little rocky and then you get on land and you still feel like you're moving, that's how I felt. And as time went on, it started to get worse. That was the weirdest experience since it had never happened before. It was like a slow burn, but a slow motion sickness. I've heard some people say if they sit in rows 5 or 6, the motion sickness is less since they're in the middle and you don't spin as much. But I sat in row 8 for my first time to get a more authentic experience. So all that being said, I'm going to give this ride 2 different ratings, which might be helpful or super confusing. But while I was riding the ride, I'd give it a 5 out of 10. I really didn't notice too much jerking around, no hard pressure on my head while we were twisting and turning, but it does twist and turn, so that can make you feel a little sick. And I'm actually going to give the ride an 8 out of 10 for when I got off. I spent the rest of the day feeling slightly sick to my stomach, and that night while trying to watch the candlelit processional, everything started spinning as if I was on the ride all over again, and it could not stop. I did enjoy this ride in the moment, but I'm not sure I'll be able to try it a second time. Speaking of not riding for a second time, let's hit up the one, the only Mission Space. This ride is like a simulator that rockets you to space, instructs you through a mission, and then rockets you right back down to Earth. This ride has legit G-force, and it is one of the most realistic trips to space you can take outside of NASA. There are insane warnings before this ride about having heart problems, back problems, don't ride if you're pregnant, or if you want to have your day ruined, don't ride it either. Even Disney knows how intense this ride is because they put sick bags inside the ride in case you can't make it back to Earth without puking your brains out. And whatever you do not try to move your head forward and look to the side. Instant barf, I promise. There are 2 sides to this ride, yellow and orange, with one being a little less intense than the other, but honestly, they're both horrible, and I'll literally never ride this ride again. No, once was enough. You could not pay me to get back on it. If you are sensitive to motion sickness, do yourself a favor and skip this one. I'm going to give it a 20 out of 10. Realistically, it's a 10 out of 10. The last and probably most fun ride in World Discovery is Test Track. There is always a long wait for this one since it's so popular, so plan accordingly. In this one, you create your own perfect car. You pick the color, the design, the engine, you decide how efficient it is, how powerful it is, and so on until you have your perfect car. Then you are moved onto the ride vehicle where your car is put to the test. After a few efficiency, traction, and brakeability tests, you get to test your speed. And you zoom out of the inside of that track where you hit 65 miles per hour. You just instantly start laughing. It's so fun. It's fun. It's intense. It's a thrill. Since there isn't anything too jerky or twisty in this one, I'm going to give this a 3 out of 10. The World Showcase is our final stop in Epcot, where we head to the correct direction towards Mexico. Don't at me. And hit up the Grand Fiesta Tour. This ride is inside the Mexican Pavilion, and if you don't know it's there, you'd walk right past it. I went 2 trips without knowing it was there. Thanks, Shay. And once I heard about it, I had to ride it, and now it's a must-do. It's really nothing that great, but I just love it. I love Donald. He's fantastic. It's a dark ride. You sit in a boat and follow Jose and Panchito as they try to find the #1 duck, Donald, to do their performance. Donald is trying to hide and enjoy his vacation away from his pals, but eventually they find him, and you get to see them perform live as the three caballeros in front of you. It's slow, it's calming, it's a dark ride. It gets a 1 out of 10. Let's head to Norway to hop on Frozen Ever After. This ride has amazing theming. You feel like you are in Arendelle from the moment you enter the ride. You sit in a boat. Yoo-hoo! You are taken through scenes from Frozen, the movie, all leading to Elsa in her ice castle where you listen to her sing the infamous Let It Go. Then backwards down to Marshmallow, who screams ice at you while you take a small drop towards the end of the ride. It's cute, it's fun, it's another Disney classic dark ride, and I'll give it a 1 out of 10. Our final ride in Epcot is in the France Pavilion. That's right, I'm talking about Remy's Ratatouille Adventure. This is a 3D ride, so if you have issues with 3D, be warned. You get into either a Remy or a Emile ride vehicle where you are taken through the restaurant as a rat, where you can see scenes showing your pal Linguini and the awful Skinner trying to either hide you or catch you. There are amazing effects on this ride, such as smells. You get a little extra heat when you're hiding under the ovens. It's very immersive, but the 3D element can leave you feeling just a little sick. The first time I rode this ride, I wasn't prepared for what I was in for, so it did make me feel a little more sick than I did the second time when I knew what was coming. I'd give this ride a 4 out of 10. Hop on the Skyliner with me and we will head to Hollywood Studios, the park with the most thrill rides, I'd say. Let's start on Sunset Boulevard with the one and only Tower of Terror. On this ride, you will enter the Hollywood Tower Hotel, where years earlier, lightning struck and killed some guests. It's actually really intense of a backstory, and only now am I realizing how intense that is. Like, people died here. Anyway, you enter the pre-show where host Rod Sterling from The Twilight Zone tells you a story of these deceased guests, and then you head over to the elevators where you essentially try your luck at riding them. Honestly, I've never broken down this ride before to anyone, and it's a lot. So you enter these elevators and you head to the very top where you are then you are pulled down at an alarming yet fun speed and brought back up and down and up and down and up and down, and you get it. It can be super intense if you aren't prepared for what's actually happening. My niece looked like she was an actual ghost. She went so pale. My sister grabbed a barf bag from her purse and held it near her because we thought she was going to puke. She didn't. She was fine. I do find this ride fun, but the pressure you feel when you are pulled back up only to drop down again does make me feel sick, like the pressure on my head. I love this ride, but I know if I ride it, there's a pretty high chance I'll get off feeling queasy. I'll give this ride a 6.5 out of 10, only because recovery for this ride is much faster than Guardians. Right next door to Tower is Rockin' Roller Coaster. This roller coaster is Aerosmith themed, and you are lucky enough to get backstage passes from the bands themselves, and you have to hurry because you're about to be late to the concert. Your ride vehicle is a super stretched out car or a stretch limo. It's really cool looking. It's fancy. I'm not sure what type of car it is, but you go from 0 to 60 in 30 seconds, and it's super intense and awesome. This ride is also in the complete dark, except for some street signs you will see while you're speeding down the highway, and you go upside down twice. Now, I will not go on coasters that go upside down. The first time I rode this ride, my friend did not tell me that it was going to go upside down because she knew I wouldn't ride it. So she kept that secret, and honestly, because I couldn't see where we were going because it's in the dark while we were riding it, the upside down parts didn't bother me as much as they usually would. I'm not sure why, but I was okay during these sections of this ride. I will give this ride a 6.5 out of 10 only because of the intensity of the ride and the 2 inversions. Also, I suggest never riding this back to back with Tower of Terror. That is a mistake I made once, and I will never do it again. Literally ruined my day. Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, located on Hollywood Boulevard, and took over the Great Movie Ride in 2020. This ride is adorable, and I love it. The pre-show shows Mickey and Minnie getting ready for a picnic they are going on, but poor little Pluto gets shut in the trunk and spends most of the ride trying to help his friends. What would you call them? His parents? Has anybody addressed who Pluto is to Mickey and Minnie? I know it's their dog, but is it their fur baby? I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too much into that. Anyway, a pie flies out of the car, plugs itself into Goofy's train, breaks the screen, and into the cartoon you go. Your ride vehicle is a train that you ride watching Mickey and Minnie try to stop the runaway train you're on. It's trackless, and each cart does its own thing. So if you ride the ride in different sections of the train, you'll get a different ride each time. It's really cool. There are some scenes that can make you feel a little bit dizzy, but all in all, it's fun, it's slow, it's perfect for the whole family, and I'm going to give this one a 3 out of 10. We now head to a galaxy far, far away, and we enter Batuu, which is Star Wars land for those who don't know. Batuu is home to 2 rides, and we will start with the Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. On this ride, Hondo is looking for a flight crew to help him get some hard-to-find items to bring back to his place, and that's where you come in. There are 6 seats on each ride vehicle, 2 pilots, 2 gunners, and 2 engineers. This ride is kind of like a simulator ride in that you are looking at a screen while the ride shakes based on what is happening on the screen. Depending on how good your pilots are, will depend on how shaky or smooth the ride is. So like if kids are driving with no idea what they're doing, or adults for that matter, you could end up feeling kind of sick at the end of this one. This ride really is dependent on who's in the ride with you. So because of that, I'm going to give this a sliding scale of 2 to 5.5 out of 10. Rise of the Resistance, possibly one of the longest waits in Hollywood studios, takes you on a journey with the Resistance to fight back and escape after being caught by the First Order. Lots of Star Wars characters make an appearance in this one, making it a huge draw for Star Wars fans. This is another trackless ride, so you could very well get a different experience if you get onto a different vehicle than you did before. You are brought through all sorts of different areas of the ship you're on. Different scenes are happening all around you. It could be a little much, I think. There is also a Tower of Terror moment where you're shot up to another floor, which can be a little jarring. All in all, this ride is smooth for the most part, but it does have jerky, quick kind of movements. I'll give this ride a 4.5 out of 10. Making our way into my favorite land, Toy Story Land. Woody and all the toys welcome you to Andy's backyard, where you are yourself toy-sized, and it is magical. We'll start at Alien Swirling Saucers. This is another spinning ride. It's not as intense as the teacups, but it's not as chill as Dumbo. It's like kind of in the middle. You spin, and then you make half turns, and then you spin the other way. It's like undoing the spinning. It's cute. It's fun. I'll give it a 3.5 out of 10. Slinky Dog Dash is considered a family coaster, good for kids who aren't ready for or big enough for the more intense coasters in Disney World. It has some turns and a lot of bumps. It's, what do you call them, humps? It has a lot of those. It's not too fast. It's not very jerky. It's actually a pretty smooth ride, but it has some turns that can give you that same pressure feeling in your head that Tower of Terror can give you. And because of that, I'm going to give this one a 5.5 out of 10. Our final ride in Hollywood Studios is my personal favorite, Toy Story Mania. It is a 4D arcade type ride where you get 3D glasses and you spin around from room to room trying to shoot targets to get the top score. If you can't handle 3D without getting sick, I'd suggest skipping this one, but it's really, really fun if you can handle it. It's pretty straightforward, and the queue is super cute, and it's fun being in Andy's room and seeing all his toys and his board games. I love this ride. I'm going to give it a 2.5 out of 10. It's time for Animal Kingdom. We will start off in Africa and head right to the Kilimanjaro Safaris. This ride takes you on a guided tour around the entire savannah where most of the animals in Animal Kingdom live, and you can experience what makes Animal Kingdom Animal Kingdom. You are kind of off-roading in this ride. It could be a little bumpy, but you are driven so slowly it does not make you feel sick. The best time to ride this ride to see the most animals would be the first thing in the morning when they are feeding and towards sunset when they are feeding again. All in all, this ride is super chill and awesome if you're an animal lover. I'm going to give this one a 1 out of 10. Over in Dinoland USA is Triceratops Spin. Another classic spinning ride. It's basically Dumbo, but you're with adorable Triceratops dinos. It's nothing new. It just goes around and around. I'll give this one a 3 out of 10. Dinosaur is classified as a thrill ride. You are sent back in time on a secret mission to bring back an iguanodon, But of course, you only have so much time before it's too late, and the time that you have been sent back to is like super dangerous. Honestly, I don't love this ride. We say it's a great ride if you want to get a headache. It's very jerky. It's mostly in the dark. It's super intense for kids because the dinosaurs are like legit scary. Like eating each other and trying to attack the ride vehicle you're in. I would not suggest this one for young kids unless they're into that. My sister swore this was her favorite ride. But then afterwards, she was like, I have no idea what I thought that was. The ride was awful. But I know some people love it, so, take that with a grain of salt. Anyway, this ride is super jerky, and I get a headache every time I ride it, so I'm going to give this one a 5 out of 10. Asia is home to 2 rides. Cali River Rapids is a river rapid ride. Try saying that 3 times fast. You sit in a giant circle with a bunch of people, and then you are taking on like a weird story of illegal logging in the jungle. Like, I get what they're going for to raise awareness, but it felt super weird to me to be on this like, wee, fun water ride, and then you're like, oh wait, no, this is like serious. Anyway, other than the possibility of getting super wet, there's nothing too crazy about this ride. I'll give it a 2 out of 10. Expedition Everest is a roller coaster that brings you up the Forbidden Mountain to look for the elusive Yeti, which you do find, and he breaks the track and sends you backwards down some twists and turns. And if going backwards is a deal breaker for you, skip this one. It's pretty intense. My mom got off this one and it looked like she was in some kind of windstorm that she almost didn't make it out of. My poor mother. I love you, Mom. Anyway, this ride is a lot. It twists, it turns, it goes backwards. You get yelled at by a Yeti. I'm going to give this one a 7.5 out of 10. Our final stop on our journey brings us to Pandora to the Navi River journey. This is another calm, dark ride that brings you on a boat through Pandora. It's fine. It's a dark ride, so, I think if you love the movie, you'll really enjoy it. It's not my favorite, but I'll ride it. The best part about this ride is the giant Navi animatronic at the end. Like, it looks legit real. I'm going to give this one a 1 out of 10. Flight of Passage is a 3D thrill ride where you are matched with an avatar and get to ride a banshee around the planet. It's kind of like Soarin', but 3D and more intense. Each scene has a lot going on in it, and it can be a little overwhelming. And since you are almost always moving, it does leave a lot of room to get motion sick. I found that if I look in one spot while moving and then look around when we landed on things, I was much better off. But yeah, this one is a lot. It's beautiful, but it's a lot. I'm going to give this one a 6 out of 10. Now for some tips. When it comes to feeling motion sickness while in the park, there are 2 things that I go to. 1, I take Dramamine the morning of. You can find less drowsy Dramamine pretty much anywhere, and when you take it as directed, it can help cut down on some of the motion sickness without making you feel like you want to go right back to bed. My other go-to is Young Living Vitality Line Peppermint Oil. Young Living is an essential oils company that sells food-grade oils, meaning it is safe to ingest them, and this line is called Vitality. The peppermint oil is super pepperminty, so if you don't like peppermint, it might not be the best choice for you. But I swear 1 or 2 drops on your tongue, swallow it down, and the nausea is gone within minutes. It's legit a miracle. I always have a bottle of it in my bag when I'm in Disney, just in case. That concludes rating every ride in Disney World for motion sickness. If you missed part 1, I will link it in the description. Let me know in the comments if there are any rides that make you feel sick, or if you agree with some of my ratings, or maybe you don't, let me know. Make sure you're subscribed and you hit the notifications button so that you know as soon as the next video comes out. And as always, if you are looking for the 411 on Disney, I've got you covered. Thanks for watching. See you next time.